Welcome to Broker's Boost. This is the show where ambitious mortgage agents like yourself learn the secrets of unlocking success in the dynamic world of mortgages. I'm your host, Calvin Keir, and I'm the Executive Vice President of Get a Better Mortgage. We're one of Canada's largest and highest volume brokerages with close to 200 agents and growing across this great nation. Whether you're just starting out or looking to take your business to the next level, Broker's Boost is your go-to resource for expert advice and inspiration. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfortable, and let's dive into the world of mortgage success together. This is Broker's Boost, and I'm thrilled to have you along for the ride. In today's video, we're going to review Jane and Joe's application and start the underwriting process. Welcome back to Velocity Training. Today we're going to start underwriting and the very basics of the beginning of it and how we review the client's application and the start of it, and taking the information that you've learned from your discovery call with your client, along with the notes you've taken, along with maybe you have to follow up and get more information. But ultimately, you're going to be able to fill in this application, the missing links that might be there, and you start to build your case for your submission to your lender. And so this is the beginning of it. You'll notice that Jane and Joe Tester both filled in their application. And I received an email that says, oh, their application's ready. And here's the velocity number. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this and copy the application number and copy that. And ideally, I'm going to put that directly into here. Now, before I do that, actually, I want to point something out. In the previous episode, I have actually enhanced my notes a little bit in here, and I'm going to copy and paste my notes down in the section below the video, and you'll be able to upload it. And I talk about just some things we're looking for from a 2-year average and so on. So go ahead and look at the notes section in the YouTube video, and you'll be able to copy and paste that as well. All right. So here it is. You can see that their name pops up. I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And within it, it starts to build their application. The first thing I'm going to see is obviously their names, their loan to value. So it's telling me right away that they're not putting down 20%. It's going to be a high ratio deal. When we're looking at things, they've got some net worth issues as well we may want to look at. They haven't talked about down payments and all that sort of good stuff, maybe. So let's see what that looks like. It is a new application, and they're set to close May the 1st. There's no conditions that I'm aware of yet that's still subject to on their MLS, and until I see a copy of that, I really won't know. And we'll kind of go from there. In the notes section, they're going to have an opportunity to leave you a note. They left me a note, said, we also may have a gift from our parents for down payment. Okay, that's good for me to know. I'm going to pin that. And by pinning it, every time I open up this application, I'm going to be able to see that, because if I run into trouble and we don't qualify, I'm going to remember this to go back to them and say, hey, what's happening with your parents? You think that we could get a down payment and maybe we need this much money. Now, I don't know that we do that now, but at least it's an opportunity for me to see it. You can see, as I mentioned, by pinning it, it's always going to be there and something I'm always going to be able to look at. All right, so let's get started. So Jane's name's first and Joe's second. Interesting. We're going to be able to have an opportunity to change this later if we need that. Generally, we're going to want the strongest person on the application in first position. Right now, we don't know who that is. What do we mean by strongest? Best employment, highest credit score, the best covenant, the best individual from a credit point of view or strength of the deal in first position. But for the time being, we'll leave it as that. So Jane, no initial, there's her last name, and no suffix meaning junior or senior. We've got her email. We don't have a phone number. Be nice if we did. And no work number. Important if we do get a work number, we're going to want to be able to put that in there because chances are a lender is going to be looking for a work number to call. Generally, they'll take it from a pay stub, not pay stub, but a letter of employment. But again, every time we miss something on an application or leave it blank, it doesn't help our story. And I think that that's important that we get that filled in. Contact preference. How do they want to be contacted? They want to be contacted by home phone, by cell phone, by email. The conversation we've had is we're going to communicate by email, and then when I need to speak to them directly, I'm going to be able to reach out by cell phone as well. Date of birth, great. Social insurance number. When somebody doesn't fill in the social insurance number, it does say optional. It did allow them to go through the process without filling it in. But know this, chances are we're going to be able to take that information and fill it in from their T4 document that you're going to receive and or their T1 General. And it does strengthen the deal, even though they may not want you to have it. The lender, in most cases, is going to score them differently if they do or do not have a social insurance number. So ideally we want to get that in there. Now, as you know, this is a made up person, so I'm just going to go ahead and make up a social insurance number and know that it's there. Preferred language is English. We know that they're married now, and the spouse is Joe Tester. So we want to identify that Joe Tester is the spouse. And they have a child, looks like. So they have a dependent. Don't know what that looks like yet, but we'll go from there. This is not a holding company, so this is an individual that we're doing business with, not a company. And we'll deal with companies in another video. First-time home buyer, so this is their first home. And what do they plan on doing with it? Not residency, and we are Canadian. I know that from my discovery call. Okay. Current address, again, because it's made up, I didn't add one, but ideally you're going to want to have that. I put down that she's a school teacher, and job type, put down other. She's been there almost more than 3.5 years. She's full-time. Industry sector, we're going to change that, put it down for education. Income type, well, we know that she's a salaried employee. She's paid a salary, she's paid annually. Does she receive benefits? Yes. Now, she didn't put any down, but we know that she does receive benefits as part of our discovery call. That's her income, 91,750. Interesting. When I see that as an underwriter, I go, that can't be accurate. Nobody has a 75000 as their income. Generally speaking, unless they're brand new hire, because of the increases that most people see on an annual basis, generally it's a number that even includes pennies, but in most cases it's not such a perfect number. So we're going to want to verify that when we look at their income, and we'll be doing income in another video. All right. Includes variable income. So she doesn't receive bonuses or anything like that. It's just salary, and that's her position. That's what she gets. She's been a teacher, it looks like 4.5 years. And again, no address for the employer. So we're going to take that from the letter of employment when we receive it. As I say, no mailing address as well. You're going to want to fill those things in. You obviously are going to have that from your client. You're going to want to fill those in. Jane also has a child. We noticed that up earlier where it says that we have a dependent. The income is a child tax benefit, child benefit, and receives annually $4,125. That's going to get added to income to help out offset the ratios for it. Assets, liabilities, and properties. So again, no assets have been identified. You'll notice here that they've identified that they have 2 cars. Joe has a work van and Jane has a sports car, approximately $25,000. We don't know if they owe anything. Now, one thing I do know, and they did tell me in the discovery call, we have an asset. The asset is they have savings, and they have saved $90,000. They actually, have $120,000, and we're going to use 90 of it as their down payment. Cash savings for down payment. All right. Typing skills this morning are not the best. Okay, and down payment, we'll get to that. We'll confirm that it's $90,000 and we will come back there. You'll notice there's no liabilities. And where the liabilities come from, the liabilities are actually going to come from their credit bureau. Okay, and we'll do credit bureaus in another video. I want to get through this right now just to see what documents we're needing, because ultimately we need to get their documents in place. You are going to pay for a credit bureau. So I kind of wait until I've got everything in place before I issue a credit bureau. That way then I'm not spending an expense on something if I can't gather all the documents. I'll make sure I get them all in place, and then I'll go ahead and do that. Once we do that, we're going to know all their liabilities, because we're going to take their liabilities from their credit bureau. They presently own no properties. I think we saw that. Looks like that they were renting. And so here we go. Subject property, okay, not identified. We didn't put down what the subject property is. We're going to get a copy of their MLS, I believe. And so from that, we'll have all that information as well. So now we get into mortgage request. Let's see what they're asking for. So it looks like they've bought a house for $775,000. Oh, and it looks like they're only going to put $75,000 down, not 90, so $75,000 down. And they're looking for a first mortgage of $700,000. So we're going to go back up here under this and identify that as $75,000. That's going to leave them a little extra cash as well. And there we go. That'll save. Everything's auto save. There's no save button in Velocity. You don't need to go looking for one. It is all there. As you'll notice now, the down payment has all of a sudden arrived from when I put it up top there. And all right, so when we look at an approval, it is an approval, so it's a live deal. It is a purchase. It's going to be a first mortgage, and loan type is a mortgage versus a line of credit. And as it's identified by them, they've indicated that they've purchased a property. The purpose of the property is primary residence. There we go. Override down payment. If in the event that I needed to adjust that, I could go ahead and click on that. Am I sure that I want to see it? Yes, I can go ahead and adjust that or not adjust it. And right now what I've done is I've locked it out. Okay. And I'm going to override it and indicate that this is personal cash. Correct. Perfect. All right. So we're looking for a mortgage of $700,000. Improvements. So many lenders have a product called Purchase Plus Improvements. We could identify here that we're looking for Purchase Plus, meaning we want to do some improvements to the property, and they may want an additional, call it $40,000 for improvements and so on. We would identify that in this section as well, so that the lender would have it, and we would identify that in the lender notes. And we'll go through lender notes in another video, but ideally I want to make sure that you just get through this process here. We don't know what lender we're going to look at yet, but we do know we've got a high ratio deal. And again, we know we have high ratio because of the fact of what we're looking at here. No insurance premium is identified yet. And I think we have to probably, I think that's still coming along. Interest rate, we don't know what that is, as I say yet. We'll get into it. We could put one in, but ideally the lender is going to probably identify it. I'll put down 5.5 for the time being. And select the rate as fixed, no discount, no buy down. We'll get into buy downs in another video as well. The term is going to be obviously closed. Closed term is a much better payment for somebody, a little less, flexibility. But when somebody brand new buying their first home, you're going to have a fixed mortgage payment. We're going to look at payment frequency. They're going to probably pay every 2 weeks is what they've indicated. The compound period, because it's a fixed rate mortgage, is semi-annual. We'll get into compound periods because when we in a variable rate mortgage, a variable or an ARM, you can, and certain lenders may charge differently than a semi-annually. And that's where two different payments for the same interest rate can come into play. One lender could be a better deal for a client than the other. Everybody wants to know the interest rate, but at the end of the day, payments may be different. They don't really realize it. 5-year term, although in this market today in 2024, very few people I would suggest to do a 5-year term. If they're first-time home buyers, maybe it's possible. So 5 years, and because we know it's high ratio, we're going to be 25-year amortization is the maximum allowed. This is going to calculate out what a payment would be for them, and every 2 weeks would be basically $19.72. Qualifying details, 2 percentage points higher than the interest rate that's here. So you would adjust that. Again, if the interest rate goes down for them and call it 4.99, let's say, then this one here, you could adjust down to 6.99. And the lowest this can go to is 5.25. All right. So we're going to go ahead and calculate that here. I just want to make sure that I didn't miss the premium section, and I did. So I'm going to go back up here. My apologies. Insured, I forgot to identify it here. So my apologies. That's where I'd identify it, requested, insured. And you'll notice it's just added $28,000 for the premium. The payment's been adjusted as well. So again, my apologies for missing that section. But because they're less than 20% down, we need this to be insured. And we are requesting it, and $28,000. All right. Something you may want to consider as well, if you remember back to the top, may consider a gift from mom and dad. So if they're putting $75,000 down, and we know they have 120, let's say, based on the total purchase price of $775, here, $775, if I was to put 20% down, how much would they really need? $155. We know we have 120. And the premium, by the way, when we're there, because we'll no longer need insurance, that could be gone. All of a sudden now we're talking about a $35,000 difference plus closing costs. You know, what is mom and dad talking about? Are mom and dad talking about a $75,000 gift? Are they talking about $100,000? If they are, that may be something we have a conversation with, because that could save our clients $28,000. But let's go back in. Let's leave it at here, and we will discuss that later with our client and go from there. So again, back to being insured. All right. So we know based on their income today, at this interest rate, will they qualify? We can see their GDS and TDS is accurate. But here's what we don't know is what are their expenses. And so when we look at this in liabilities, we have not identified any liabilities. Those 2 cars they have, they may have car payments on it. They may have credit card debt that we're unaware of. They may have lines of credit. They may have student loans. All of those things are going to kind of come into play once we look at their credit bureau. And when do we do that? For me, after I have all the documents in place and I know exactly what we're looking at. All right. So here we go. We just want to double check the income as well. Just one more time, make sure when we're looking at it, Jane makes $91,000. That is annual. When we look at Joe makes, and again, we need to make sure his is all accurate. So Joe has a spouse, and filling in all of his information. Again, if it's missing, we want to identify it. Contact preference is email, marital status, spouse. Oh, Jane, there we go. Residency, Canadian. We want to identify that as well. And again, address. You'll note that his employment shows 2. So he's got 2 jobs, maybe. His current job, it's less than 3 years. So 2.5 years there. He's presently got a salary of $225,000, and it is variable. That tells us he's probably got some bonuses as well. He's identified here he doesn't receive benefits, but we know that he does. We know that his salary is a salary plus bonuses. So we'll put down salary here. And industry sector, high tech. All right. Everything else looks good. Type is full-time. Receives benefit, annual income 225. Again, back to that same analogy when I talked about James at 225,000. Chances are that's not his exact salary. We'll get that from his pay stubs. And because he's got variable income, we're going to look at a 2-year average of T4s. We'll get into how to define income in another video, but ideally, that's what we're going to look at here. All right. Okay, so back here, mortgage request. We're not going to get into the mortgage request yet from a submitting point of view, but everything looks to be in order. And we know that right now, based on the information they provided, they do qualify. Payment summary identified here. We don't know the property taxes on the property. That also is going to affect their ratios. So once we have the MLS, we're going to be able to put that in as well. We haven't identified a lender yet. Why? Because we don't know enough of the story. Here's an area, and we're going to talk about this in the future. It's submission agent. So I'm the agent. The submission agent is somebody from Get a Better Mortgage. In most cases, one of our co-founders, so Robert DiStefano, in most cases is the submission agent. And what that allows us to do is pool all of our business together so that they give us a volume bonus from the lender based on the size of the brokerage. It's one of the benefits of being at Get a Better Mortgage is you're getting volume bonus day one based on Rob DiStefano or Mark Tamburo's volume there as well. And we'll do a video on this when we talk about submission, but you can see who the submission agent is based on our contact notes for the lender on our portal. Co-brokering, we're not going to deal with that in this video, but if you were to partner with another broker, there's an opportunity to co-broker together. Submission notes, we'll do another area, another section on that in another time. CRM, again, same thing. And mortgage classification, we realize that it is a, basically a prime mortgage. So we're not going to need to, basically check off any of these. All right, so now we get to conditions and documents. If you remember in the last video, we talked about doing smart conditions, and you'll notice they're already here. So it's already identified all of the documents that are needed for your client. And that was when we checked them off in our client experience. So, that's basically what we're looking at here. And it's automatically going to send an email to our client looking for these documents. It's doubled these ones up because we've actually sent out emails separately to our client. But ideally, as long as one of them uploads it, that'll be fine. Last area is because your client filled in an application online, one of the nice things about this is it's actually going to provide us a consent confirmation. So this is giving you consent to go ahead and pull their credit, and we're able to keep this on file. Now, we're not going to do that today. And obviously, because they're not real customers, we're not going to do it either. So your clients received an email. It's going to ask them for all these documents. And it's going to, obviously, there's their income. We're going to verify their income. And we're going to go ahead and verify the property. On another video, we'll explain what different types of income documents are for and what you need to do from that. But I think ideally today, we've now got a situation where the application has been reviewed and we're now in a holding pattern waiting for your customer to send in their documentation. It's a good idea to reach out to them, thank them again for their application, and just let them know that you're here and waiting for them if they do need anything at all. Stay tuned for the next video and we'll go from there.
Thanks for tuning in to Brokers Boost. Tune in next time where we will review the documents that Jane and Joe upload into our secure portal.